Good evening, everyone. It's the Planning Board meeting for Southampton, November 6th, today. The public hearing will take place at 7:30. There was a little bit of confusion. The abutters notice said 7:30. The ad read 7, but in all fairness, we'll wait till 7:30 before we start discussion on that. And that'll give us time to cover a couple of other small items of business here beforehand. Jim Labrie is on his way. Keith Locke has excused himself tonight for illness. So at this time, I'm going to ask Mark Reed from Heritage Surveys to bring forward a couple of ANRs. He has one's for Kellogg on 90 Pleasant Street and another for Trueheart on Birchwood Drive.
Sure. Good evening. Before I do that, I guess I would just like to submit a, whoops, sorry, that's live, a application on behalf of Eugene Labrie for a zone change request at the intersection of College Highway and Valley Road.
Could we cover that after
later?
The ANRs?
Okay, you want to do the ANRs first? Sounds good. So I have the Form As. Do Mr. Kellogg's first.
There's no creation of new lots?
No, there's no creation of any lots here. It is a small parcel of land that you would like to add to his existing house lot. So Chet and Sue live at 90 East Street. They're proposing to add 6,969 square foot of land in the back from their parcel of land that they own in the back to the front to make their house square off the house lot and make it a slightly larger in size. Back parcel is like 14.
So they already own all of this?
Yes, they already own that. That's their land. It's 14.1 acres.
So it's just this minor addition?
Yeah, just a minor addition of that 6,900
square
foot to add to their house lot that's located at 90 East Street.
Questions?
Nope.
Have a motion?
I move to approve the A&R for the Kellogg's of 90 Pleasant Street. That adds 6,900 or so square feet of their own land to make their lot larger on that particular building lot of 90 East Street.
Second, just to clarify, endorse it.
Motion made and seconded.
Endorse it.
Any other?
Oh, I endorse it? I don't approve it. I endorse it.
Any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to sign away again.
I'll take notes, okay, Paul?
You've got them here, Cindy, if you want. I'll take.
Okay.
There's not much there. You guys can do the minor and
One extra plan involved for taking that paper copy.
want the mic, just leaving me, what, 3? Take your Mylar. You got your Mylar?
Yeah, I got my.
And then next you have one for, is it Rick Trueheart on Birchwood Drive?
Yes, I do. Again, this is not creating a new building lot. I have a survey for you. What is being proposed is a modification to a boundary line of this little triangular piece, which is 60 foot by 60 foot by 120 foot in dimension. He's currently building a house on parcel A2R and would like to have a little bit more front yard for that. Both lots have, one lot has 4.1 acres, the other is 2.5 acres. The planning board had signed this plan back in, I think, 2012, if I remember right. So there's no change in frontages, there's no change in number of lots.
So this is the one he's building on,
Yep, that's the one he's
This is
building
where
on.
he's
and
at.
then he has another lot here,
Correct. The
and that has
driveways are-
frontage on Glendale.
Correct. The driveways come off of Birchwood Drive for both of those,
Right.
which is part of the original subdivision,
You say hi, Jim.
2015.
This is being added to this little pie
Yeah,
shape
does
here.
it change the, the fact, does this still come,
Yes, it has 2.5
this will work together?
acres of
Because I've
land.
heard that he intends to build a house there too.
Yes, yeah, eventually there will be a house built there as part of the original plans for the subdivision of Birchwood.
Isn't
Yes,
this the one years ago, he actually needed the frontage here to build a house here off of
Correct.
Birchwood? Right.
correct. The original subdivision plans that were approved, and I got a copy of them back in 1988, showed that there'd be these two lots with access coming off of Birchwood Drive to those. There's two separate driveways going in. It's not a common driveway. So there will be two separate driveways.
Questions? No. Motion?
So moved to endorse.
Second.
Motion by Paul,
Today's the-
second by Cindy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to be the first signer, or does it?
No, it doesn't matter. Here. That one I'll sign when you send it down.
This is the first two.
Take my pen. Come on, go ahead.
Here, I'll even give you a space.
Never separated, man.
Jim, would you slip out that first one that I haven't signed? The very first one?
Well, actually, I have all the Ds.
That one there.
Yeah, got it.
I think we're good.
Okay, now we'll take your next order of business, which wasn't on the agenda, but I got an email from you this afternoon. You're just submitting a letter of request, so
Correct.
go ahead.
So on behalf of Eugene Labrie, we're requesting a zone change from industrial park to commercial highway at the intersection of College Highway and Valley Road. The parcel contains the big red barn that currently exists out there, and like to have the board and the town consider that as a zone change. From right now, it's industrial zoned to commercial highway.
So this is on the corner of Valley Road and Route 10,
Yes.
and there's a barn,
Yes, it's a red barn.
and now it's industrial. and-
Yep.
Okay.
I got copies for everyone.
I'm going to stay on.
Yep.
Well, that's going to follow the same path as this next hearing coming up, so I can't give you a definitive date. I can probably guess that it could be December 4th. It'd be the soonest we could get it on.
Okay.
And if not, it would be the 18th of December. So we'll try to shoot for the 4th. We'll see how things shake out. If that's the case, I'll let you know well in advance so you can get your abutter notifications out when we get the legal ad done.
So I did give you the notifications, so I might want to go back, because those are for the mailings that the assessors gave us
Right?
to go out, so,
Have you got more than one copy here?
yes.
All right, so I can keep a copy?
Here, I can give you another copy of it. Has the list on it.
Seems to me like it's got 3 copies of it
I
here.
only got 3 copies.
Yeah. 3 copies of the labels.
Oh, yeah, well, the labels, you're right, you give me 3 copies. Okay.
And then once I get a definitive date, then I can work out the legal ad for you to get out in the mail.
Yes. Yeah, I guess you did give me 3 copies.
No, I don't need that really.
Okay.
I have,
Yeah, but you got one of them. You kept one of them. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks.
We still have a few minutes to the 7:30 public hearing. I want to go down the agenda, and I want to have a motion to reappoint Cindy Palmer to the Ad hoc Open Space Committee. You've been working on it right along, and you need to be reappointed, so I'm assuming you want to continue?
Yes.
Okay, so can I have a motion that Cindy will be our representative on the Ad hoc Open Space Committee? Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Congratulations.
I love meetings.
We also need to reappoint one of us to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. We're a little overdue on that, but Paul, you're the representative on record, and I'm an alternate. Do you have the time to, you want to continue on that as the rep, and then I will be the alternate?
Please do. if you-
Okay, so I need a motion on that.
I move to have Paul continue to be the primary rep to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and the secondary is Paul Deman.
Second.
Motion's made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 5 years.
I have 2 warrants I want to process for payment. and that's regarding our new laptop that we purchased a month ago, first one in almost 10 years. Two vouchers. One is for Amazon, and I'd like to thank Ed Gibson, who's here tonight, was instrumental in getting us a good price on that and getting it up and running for us. Amazon for the laptop itself, that's an HP, $625.76. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the warrant for the Amazon laptop, $625.76.
Second.
Perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the second invoice is for this laptop, the Microsoft Office software edition that was installed on it that came from Gov Connections, and that was $147.36. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the warrant for the purchase of the Microsoft Office software for $147.36.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Still have 5 minutes. That's great. We can get some work done.
Jim.
For the, at the last meeting, we tabled a building permit that was submitted by Nicholas Radcliffe, 306 Fomer Road, because it had incomplete information and there wasn't a plan to scale. So in the interim, to streamline the process so we wouldn't have to wait until this meeting, I met with Keith Locke, one of our board engineers. We did the calculations on the site, and it was under the 40,000 square foot threshold for stormwater. In fact, the disturbance area was calculated at 35,182. So it was substantial, but it still fell below the threshold. So I signed off on that building permit, and I'll make it a part of the record tonight that I did so. We have two other building permits tonight. I'll have you people look at the plans here if you want to come down. One is from William LaPointe, 115 Strong Road. Looks like it's a barn.
Does it say on the permit what he wants?
No, it's just the plot plan.
They
You
just,
said 115 strong.
115 strong.
It's going to be close to Anita Drive, I think, right?
Well, it looks like they're adding. Actually, no, that's just the barn, and you're right. I wasn't sure if there's something else in there.
can you see?
Yeah, sort of. What's the acreage? Let's see it.
You move.
It's 60 by 120. Which is,
So here's your dwelling, 115.
so this is about 8,000 or so square feet. Well under the disturbance.
Yeah.
Motion on that?
Is there any reason that they should go before the Conservation Commission? Is there any wetlands or anything?
Conservation hasn't signed off on it yet, but
Yeah, they'll have their chance.
Okay. Meets all the criteria as far as size and everything?
We're pretty much just looking for disturbance, right?
Yeah.
It's at 40,000.
all set with that? Anybody get a motion?
Motion to approve this building permit.
Second it. Maybe we should just make sure that we double, should we put in there that long as the variance is less than 40?
Well, they identified the work area that's approximately 8,000, yeah.
Because there's already an existing house and another barn there.
These are just swing
Okay.
lines to a tree, I believe.
Second, good.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, stay where you are, Jim.
Oh, we got one more? Bringing these out, they were free.
Next one is John Kent, 39 High Street.
Let's get a ruler out for this one.
Limitations on disturbance.
What is this depicting?
Limits of
Silt
fence.
So what's within that?
So they're changing the grade lines here, right?
I didn't know that I was in the area of disturbance.
Ooh, 38,000.
But if it was calculated and they have it drawn, I mean, the silt fence is going to be pretty good, right? Is that the area within the built silt fence? Yeah.
Is this the one that a bunch of trees were taken down on that lot? Is this lot recently cleared?
There's only a couple trees that they took down. This is across from Justin Otz's house. Oh, the one you're thinking about is
A different,
up on the hill. No,
it's not
this is
that one?
Across the street.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is already a cleared lot. And it's been through approval with the Conservation Commission already.
It is.
Since it was actually a nice layout drawing. No problem with it.
Just for the record, the silt fence fiber log limits seem to exceed the disturbance area from what the proposed grading looks like, so it's
Why would they do that?
just to make it bigger, I guess. No, I mean, they've identified, I think
They
that's
identified it
defined.
there and they have it pretty much laid out, I think.
Seems conservative,
So this is for a new house?
yes. So moved to approve the building permit at 39 High Street.
Motion made by Paul to approve the building permit at 39 High Street. Second on that?
Second.
Second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we come to the public hearing that everybody is patiently waiting for. Thank you. I'll have Cindy Palmer here read the legal notice as it was published in the Daily Hampshire Gazette on October 21st and October 28th.
Okay. Notice is hereby given in accordance with the provision of MGL Chapter 40A, Section 5, that the Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, November 6, 2019, at 7:30 p.m. at the Southampton Town Hall, 210 College Highway, first floor meeting room, for an application of American Dream Realty LLC for a zone map amendment for 173-175 College Highway. The properties are shown on Assessor's Map 24, parcels 2 and 57, Hampshire County Registry of Deeds, Book 13243, page 133. The applicant proposes to have the zone change from Residence Village-RV to Commercial Village-CV for the purpose of developing within the zoning requirements. The proposed development will be in accordance with the Town of Southampton zoning bylaws. A copy of the application may be inspected at Town Hall or the Planning Board office during office hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the application should appear at the time and place designated. And it was signed Paul Deman, Chairperson, Southampton Planning Board, published in the Daily Hampshire Gazette, October 21, 2019, October 28, 2019.
Thank you, Cindy. And we received this request, received an email from Ed Gibson on September 23rd that at the regular meeting of the Select Board on September 17th, the zoning amendment change was referred to this body for public hearing. So at this time, I'm going to ask Paul Fergal, our board members, has to recuse himself on this project because of his affiliation with the client. So at this time, we do have a quorum that we can continue to hear this. And now I will ask Rob Levesque from Levesque Associates, who is representing the applicant American Dream, to make his presentation.
Excuse me. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. Here with me this evening is the Sardinia family. Yep. Can't hear anybody. Sure. Is this microphone on? No. Okay. Well, actually, it is on. I'll do my best here. So, good evening. I'm Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates. I'm here this evening representing the Sardinia family. They're right here in the front row with me. They're the local franchisee for the Dunkin' Donuts that you have in town, right near Paisanos. We're here this evening because they have purchased the property, the subject property at 173 and 175 College Highway. What they would like to do is pursue a business use within the subject property directly adjacent to the former restaurant, Opa Opa. We, again, are requesting a change to the zoning bylaw, to the zoning district to allow us to have a commercial village district rather than a residential village district. That is the request before you this evening. We'd be happy to talk conceptually about the plans that they have, but obviously this is for the zone change itself. You know, we at the time that we do have a zone change or have something to go off of for the commercial use, we would then come in for site plan approval, provide adequate information for the board to to hear that at that time.
That would be after the town meeting vote, if it goes to town meeting, though, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
I'll let the public decide, and I'll ask you if they do have questions that you would answer them as you go forward.
Sure.
With this. Just to clear up any misconceptions they may have.
Absolutely.
All right?
Thank you.
So what I'm going to do tonight is we'll ask our consultant, Ken Comia, who has been recently named to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. Larry Smith, our previous consultant from them, retired. So Ken is here tonight, and he's just going to give a little bit of background on the planning board's behalf on what he has assessed with this zone change in conjunction with the master plan and our zoning. So Ken, please proceed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Ken Comia. I'm with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. I'm a senior planner in the Land Use Division. Zoning map amendments, as you are aware, require a public hearing by the planning board, which is this venue that it's occurring. The planning board will make its recommendation to the town meeting and provide its planning board report. And as the chair stated, the town meeting will have to act on that vote, and it would require 2/3 of the town meeting. Briefly, regarding zoning map amendments, the Zoning Act requires that in Chapter 40A, Section 4, districts shall be uniform. This is the uniformity clause. Understanding your zoning map, commercial village is adjacent to the parcels that are in question. So you wouldn't be creating any sort of spot zoning, and it would be conforming to the Zoning Act at that point. Other considerations that the board may make are specific to the master plan that the town worked on in 2013, I believe. This is considered a planning focus area, and in that, the town has identified in the land use section that let's see my notes here. Allows select commercial uses in the village center only in conjunction with an existing residential uses, and allows select residential uses such as 2-family, 3- and 4-family buildings that mimic the character of a large single-family home to encourage vitality within and preservation of the historic character of this area. Strategy 8.1b, adopt more flexible dimensional standards in the area along College Highway between Pomeroy Meadow and Gun Road to encourage creative site design and foster a vibrant mixed-use district. This could involve creating a new zoning district for the area. Those are 2 sections of the master plan which could be pertinent to the planning board's consideration, as well as comment from the public. I would suggest that these map amendments reflect what the town has stated in the past as far as part of the master plan, that you should be striving to be compliant with your master plan and work towards adopting some of the goals that you have set for yourself. I think with that said, I'm here for any questions, should the public have any, or the board have any, during this public hearing.
Thank you, Ken. At this time, I'm going to ask the members from the public to come forward, and when you do, state your name and your address. And because we have quite a few people here and many may want to speak, just try to keep your comments maybe under 3 minutes. And if you have a question before you leave the podium for the engineers or Pioneer Valley planning consultant, please ask them before you leave the podium, and hopefully they can give you some further information. Mr. Kozub.
Thank you. My name is Bob Kozub. I am an abutter, and I'm also chairman of the Historical Commission. And I would like to make 3 points pertinent to tonight's question. The first has to do with traffic and safety considerations. As it currently exists, the intersection of Pomeroy Meadow Road is, to say the least, a navigation problem. 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, auto and truck traffic, particularly truck traffic, that has increased on Route 10 over the past few years. The state safe walk to school sidewalks that were put in, allowing walkers along those sidewalks. The entryways to both the trading posts and what was the restaurant all contribute to that difficulty. That corner has been the site of numerous accidents. I researched that over the past years, and within the last 6 weeks, I personally witnessed 2 accidents there. The exit and entry to the parking lot of the restaurant, quote, quote, was designated as one way to reduce the danger at that corner. 4 or 5 years ago, when the previous owners of 173 and 175 College Highway cut the curb and put in a gate, the purpose for doing so was to allow traffic to enter there during equestrian trials at that property. That gate was never used, and it was never used because they were advised that doing so would create a safety hazard and it would require police to direct traffic there. But yet, we're being asked here to exercise a zone change which would allow a commercial enterprise, which, as far as I know, does a very substantial amount of their business on a drive-through basis. It's kind of counterproductive with what has been done in the past. The master plan. As you're very well aware, we do have a master plan. It was established in 2013. And yes, that master plan recognizes that commercial interests contribute to the tax base and don't use as many services as some of the others do. Neither do empty nester residences and old folks like myself who happen to live there and don't have kids in school. But the master plan does give us guidance as to where those commercial enterprises should or should not exist. They should not exist in conservation areas, open space areas, along scenic routes, areas that are protected agriculturally, or for that matter, in historic districts. The plan suggests that the Pomeroy Meadow Road corridor from Pomeroy Meadow towards Easthampton is a more desirable corridor for development of commercial enterprises. And indeed, we have seen commercial businesses go in there, and they have been very, very successful. Interestingly, there is commercially zoned property available in that corridor. And who's to say that there may, in the not-too-distant future, be other commercially zoned property available in that area? The third point I want to make has to do with historic considerations. This property is at the gateway of the state and federal recognized Southampton Center Historic District. The property is directly across the street from Center Cemetery, which is a National Register site recognized by the National Park Service. It is one of the oldest cemeteries in New England. It houses graves for Revolutionary and Civil War veterans as well as other veterans. It also abuts what is believed to be the first house built in Southampton, which is listed on the State Historical Assets Inventory. The house happens to be my house, built in 1734, known as the Ebenezer Kingsley House, currently being cared for by my wife and I. I have to say that I would consider a commercial zoning in this area as not only being inappropriate, but disrespectful of the historic assets that lie along that corridor. It is my understanding, from doing a little research, that you, as the planning board, have the authority to deny this request. Because of the negative impact that I've outlined here, I would urge you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Good evening. My name is Judith Miller-Conlon, and I'm the chair of the Southampton Cemetery Commission. And thank you so much for the chance to come here and talk, and all of you. I'm happy to have such lovely prepared notes as Bob did. But I will say, I'm here on a couple of levels. As the cemetery commissioner, I have a lot of people come up to me and talk about how beautiful the Southampton Cemetery is, and the sense of peace that they get from being in this rural cemetery, an area where they can be at home. It's generations and generations of people have been there. I have 7 generations of my family up there right now, and I visit a lot, and a lot of other people do, some people every single day. They're there to remember the people they've lost. They're there to exercise, to walk their dogs, to enjoy the peace and quiet, and they're there to grieve, and they deserve the respect for being in a place that is sacred. If we take away the sense of being in that sacred area, we're really doing a disservice to the people who come to Southampton to be in a place like Southampton, to have the open space, to know that they have a touchstone with the past. And that's been since, 1738 we've been there. So there's a lot of people. It means a lot to me. I get emotional, I'm sorry, when I start to talk about the cemetery. But I do very much worry about the things that Bob talked about the traffic patterns, about infringing on the historical importance of it. And I just want you to really think, as you're making your decisions, and I know that these decisions lay before you, how important it is to take advantage of this opportunity to save a very special part of Southampton that once it's gone, we can never get back again. If we take away the surroundings, if we create the cemetery and have it just be a pocket surrounded by busy commercial areas, please consider that carefully, and let Southampton have something that's extremely special and is rather unique in this world. We want to hold on to what we have, because once we let it go, we'll never get it back. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sorry, I have to race off to sing with them.
Anyone else?
Hi, Rainey Groden, Cheryl Lane. It's a terrible corner, and I think everybody knows that. I'm curious, this was zoned residential, and it was bought as residential, and so I'm just kind of curious about that. Like, there's lots of commercial land for sale on Route 10, including right across from the Harley-Davidson place. That would be great locations for this that was actually already zoned commercial. So I'm just curious as to why it was bought as a residential and then coming to have it switched. I mean, I know it's your right to do that, but it just seems like a little presumptuous to me.
Would you like to respond? No? Okay. Anyone else?
Good evening. Janet Kane, Glendale Road. I guess when PVPC read the master plan, I didn't hear anything in the master plan that supported this initiative, unless I misunderstood. So if we have a master plan in place, it's there for a reason. So I also request that we consider that. Thank you.
Do you want to define that further, Ken? I didn't read it into that personally, but if you want to answer her question regarding that.
It's not, the goals that were stated that I said, that I read, were strategies under the goal for land use to enhance the unique characteristics and aspects of planning in focus areas in town, of which that area is a planning focus area. And the strategies include the ones that I read. Adopt more flexible dimensional standards in the area along College Highway between Pomeroy Meadow and Gunn to encourage creative site design and foster a vibrant mixed-use district. This could involve creating a new zoning district for this area. Allow select commercial uses in the village center only in conjunction with an existing residential uses, and allow select residential uses such as 2-family, 3- and 4-family buildings that mimic the character of a large single-family home to encourage the vitality within and preservation of the historic character of this area. I just suggested those as points of discussion, as it commits to strategies that the town has identified to meet the goal for those planning focus areas. And those were 2 that were specific to planning focus area 2, which is that village center.
Thank you.
I'd just like to clarify for those who are not familiar with Pomeroy Meadow versus Gunn Road. We're talking Pomeroy Meadow to the Easthampton side of Pomeroy Meadow. Gunn Road is to the Easthampton side. And again, the master plan generally identifies that as desirable for commercial enterprises. And again, several enterprises have been started up there and are successful.
Thank you.
Hi, April West, 54 Strong Road. I really am worried about the traffic there, and would a traffic study be required? And the other thing is that if you build your business there, which I completely understand because it's very close to where you are now and everybody's in their routine, but between 8:30 and 9 o'clock, there are 10 or 12 cars going through the drive-in. So if you have a smaller drive-through and you have an accident or people can't get out, you're going to slow your business down. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Rob?
Thank you. I'd just like to speak to that last question related to the opportunity for how many stacking spaces potentially we could get at the drive-through. We have done a conceptual layout. We've looked at this. We can get probably upwards of 25 cars if we wanted to. We don't feel like we need that much on the subject property. We do understand the concern about the historic nature of the area. I will at least put out there that some of you may be familiar with the new Dunkin' Donuts store that went into Williamsburg. We worked hard on that. That was something where we met with, they call themselves the Burgies. There was about 300 Burgies in a gym, and they were all very concerned about what would happen to their area. They had a kind of a somewhat historic Cape-style bank building that they had there. These gentlemen worked very hard to work with the neighbors and through the planning process, both with the planning board and the ZBA, to come up with a plan, in my opinion, that is very tasteful. It has a gold leaf sign. In my opinion, it's probably similar to a Dunkin' Donuts you would see in Nantucket or something like that, where they really have very specific design standards. So these gentlemen are committed to the community. They do have a store right up the street. This is, in fact, right near that other store, so that's why they are looking at this location. With regard to traffic, they capture pass-by trips, and the other store obviously would not be open if this was. They're not going to have 2 across the street from each other. So if this store opens, the traffic from the other store would be transferred generally to this location. And they're trying to capture pass-by trips. This is not, Dunkin' Donuts isn't a destination. If you've noticed, every 2.5 to 3 miles there's a Dunkin' Donuts. So this is a local pass-by operation. This is not something where we're trying to pull people from other parts of the community. So that's all. Thank you.
Do you have something, Cindy?
I just remember a moment ago, several people were talking about the master plan. I actually I represent the planning board on the master plan implementation committee. It is very thick, it is very complex, and it's taken me a long time to get my arms around it. And there are some specific goals noted in the master plan about development, but also about maintaining the rural scenic character of our community, and also Very specifically, I was just reading one here about, recognize that the historical district is right there. That is our historical district. So I just don't want to have anyone think that the master plan is only the things that have been mentioned so far tonight, because it's really very complex, and it has a lot of other guidelines that were voted on by our entire town in 2013. So that was what I was going to say.
Christina Madsen, excuse me, Rattle Hill Road. The planning focus area that was referred to ends at Pomeroy Meadow Road. The parcel in question lies to the south of Pomeroy, so it is without the planning focus area. I would also, as a member of the Historical Commission, raise my objection to it being across from the Center Cemetery. That is a sacred place, and we need to honor that and respect those who lie there and those who visit there. Of course, I don't dispute that Dunkin' Donuts is a popular place. This is the wrong place for it.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike O'Neill. I'm on 19 Gun Road Extension, and I walk every day. I walk every day in that area where I walk down Pomeroy Meadow Road and around the corner in front of JP's and so on. And the traffic has exploded recently, and you can go any time of the day, especially in that area where it's nonstop traffic. Frequently, I walk down toward the cemetery and I walk around the cemetery. And one of the reasons why I walk through the cemetery is because it's a peaceful place to walk without nearly getting run over by trucks and so on. So it is a traffic concern, especially since somebody is going to put in maybe another restaurant there, along with, if you put in a Dunkin' Donut there, the traffic pattern is going to be horrendous. Just recently, I think about a week ago, there was a two-car accident right in that corner, right in front of JP's and Pomeroy Meadow Road. So it is a very unsafe area, and it's getting more unsafe as time goes on, because the traffic patterns are horrendous. They really are, especially at 8 o'clock in the morning when people are coming into Norris School, and then again, people just going to work generally. It's like Route 10 has become a Riverdale Road type situation where there's constant traffic now. So you have to take that into consideration and before you approve this plan, because it is a major consideration, and it is a historical site. It is a historical site, and too often in this town I've seen historical buildings taken down or renovated or done something out of character for those historical buildings. So take that into consideration. That's all I can say.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Don Warren. I live at 230 College Highway in the downtown historic district, and we are the owners of a historic home. I support Bob Kozub. I also serve with him on the Historic Commission and share his concern for the traffic situation on Route 10. I also am concerned that we're casting aside a master plan that was put together close to 20 years ago with a lot of careful thought for the future of this town. I think we should honor the fact that it's in the historic district and do our new development in areas that were set aside initially for that purpose.
So it's interesting to hear, what I'm hearing is that because this is in a historic district, there should be no new development, no growth. I don't believe that's in the master plan. I believe the master,
It didn't say no new development, it just said this particular project.
Well, it also said no, these folks are talking about not wanting to disturb the cemetery. Usually we have abutters that are alive that are fighting us. We want, what we're trying to do is do something that's tasteful. These guys are committed to that. They can make this project look however the folks in this area feel like it needs to look. The use is really what we're asking for with the zone change. We want to be able to do a commercial use. Right now, it's residential. There's no prohibitions on developing that property as a residential property. As you mentioned in the master plan, there's probably multiple opportunities. So it's not that it won't get developed. It's just that we think that this is a good commercial use, and we think it's, if you're not going to allow commercial uses on your main vehicular corridor at, again, a busy intersection with reasonable traffic, then you have to ask yourself, are you going to allow any new?
Before you sit down, Rob, is that going to be a standalone Dunkin' Donuts, or are you putting in a structure that can house more than one business?
There's the opportunity to do multiple buildings because of the size of the property. They're planning a standalone Dunkin', though.
But there could be future expansion, right?
There could be other uses there. Yeah, it would lend itself to a small plaza or a couple small buildings, maybe a bank, maybe something like that. You could certainly fit probably 2 buildings on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody from the police department in this hearing?
I am.
Hold on just a minute, Bob. I was hoping someone to be here so I could get some feedback with this traffic question and get your take on the safety features of this property.
Sure. Ian Illingsworth, I'm the police chief in Southampton. I came just to answer questions to any statistical data relative to crashes at that intersection on Palmer Meadow Road, if there were any questions about it. I checked from 2017 to present, and typically in Southampton we have about anywhere between 75 to 85 reportable crashes. And when I say reportable crashes, those are crashes that require property damage over $1,000 or personal injury. And so those are the actual crashes that officers will report on. So those are the crashes that I have stats on. At that particular intersection between 2017 and current, there were 11 crashes, reportable crashes, 2 of which were people recently driving into the island while they're making the turn. But as far as crashes involving other cars and between Palmer Meadow Road and Route 10, I would say 9 reportable crashes.
Over that 2-year period.
From 2017, January 1st, 2017 to present.
Mm-hmm. Is there any area in town that's more dangerous? Or, I mean, is this?
I find that, where we have most crashes are wherever there's a disruption in normal traffic pattern. For instance, at Cumberland Farms, Big Y, intersections, and so forth. That's where we have a tendency to have a greater amount of crashes.
Anyone else have any questions for the chief before he sits?
Well, I have a question. If this turns into be a spot where there's a Dunkin' Donut, would you, in your role, anticipate something worse? And would you want to make recommendations based on what someone said, that there was a gate that was put in and the police department at that time said don't use it because it was considered dangerous?
I don't have any knowledge of that, of that particular comment. However, wherever there is, like I said, a disruption in that normal traffic pattern, for instance, people coming into a roadway, there will be likely more crashes than somebody driving down a rural road or a roadway where there is no people intersecting. So if I were to relate it to plazas like Big Y, Paisanos, Cumberland Farms, well then yes, there will be a likelihood of more incidents of car crashes, simply because they're entering and exiting Route 10.
Okay, so we're always concerned about the demand on our municipal government and our services in town because we're always balancing the fiscal responsibility there. So likelihood of more crashes, perhaps more demand on the police department and the ambulance and...
I don't think it would have a demand where it would be anything recognizable, no.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Thank you. Rob, would your client be adverse to a traffic study if we so requested one here, so we could...
We were planning on doing that. We would certainly be doing that at some point. If that's something that would help the planning board.
We can have an independent source do that, not your company, but an independent source, correct? That's what we would prefer.
Peer review on, well, that's, I don't know. Usually we do something and it's peer reviewed. I'm not sure how that would work. So you would hire the consultant, we would pay?
Well,
I'm
suggesting that we hire the firm to do a traffic study to assess this project. Not you do it and then have it...
I think Sue, tell me what you think about this. I think the problem with that is that this is for a zone change. So anything that's allowed in that zoning district could technically go there. So it doesn't necessarily have to. We could certainly, these guys would be proposing a Dunkin' Donuts for sure, but the planning board needs to understand that once the zone is changed, it could be anything that's allowed in that zoning district to be, as accurate as possible. So
yeah, but the type of business makes the biggest concern, with vehicle trips.
So it's not necessarily, I don't know, to me, it sounded like there was a concern with just generally with business at least from the abutters. Is the planning board's concern more related to the traffic associated with a Dunkin' Donuts type of use?
Well, that and the nature of the roadway there, the slight curve, the sight distances, that's all things that we should, take into consideration on that.
We would certainly expect to do that at some stage of the game. I don't want to, pay for a traffic, or have my clients pay for a traffic study if there are other specific concerns. If the planning board is comfortable generally with a business use, but would be concerned about that specific use in the traffic generated from that use, then absolutely I think we would be more than happy to pay for a traffic study to look at those so that the planning board could make a more informed decision. I think we would want some level of comfort that we weren't paying for a traffic study for no reason. I think that's probably a fair statement.
Jim, you got any comment on that?
Not yet. I'm waiting.
I'm just a little perplexed about that because it should, in my mind, it should be in the scope of the package you're presenting for the zone change. I know it's criteria we would request for a site plan and a special permit.
Yep.
But seeing as this is a zone change, I would think that would almost be something that you would want to provide so the public and the board could have more information at their disposal.
We could, again, it's not for the site plan. We're not here for the site plan. We don't have the allowed use yet. If we had the allowed use, then we certainly would know what we can design, know what the setbacks are, know what the building sizes could potentially be, what traffic and parking we would be generating based on the proposed uses. Right now, we could speculate, but to me, I think if the planning board says to us tonight that they need more information related to traffic and they are comfortable with the other questions and concerns that have been raised about the historic nature of the area, we certainly, as mentioned, are committed to making the building look and working with the Historic Commission to make it something that everyone can be proud of. If that's something that the planning board has comfort with, then I think by all means we would certainly pursue a traffic study in short order, or if somebody can be hired by the planning board and there's cooperation from the applicant in terms of payment of that, I think that would certainly be a reasonable request from the planning board.
I have another question. There are a lot of places to buy coffee. In fact, a lot of Dunkin' Donuts, what somebody just said, every mile or two.
That's fair.
And I think one of your competitors is Cumberland Farms, because they're doing it kind of as a loss leader, I guess. You can get really cheap coffee, maybe it's not as good, but you can, I mean, there's a lot of places to buy coffee. And I just, from a practical standpoint, am a little concerned that there'll be, if this was to go through and there would be a Dunkin' Donut, that in a few years, there would be a change in the market and a change in the trend, and suddenly you'd be closing a store. I know you probably don't expect to do that, and you can't say the future. But I have to say, when you talk about all of these factors regarding the historical district, regarding all the parts of the master plan, which aren't just the one part, but all the things that we hope to maintain in our community, I really want to hear from other people in the room who might say, but this is a good thing for the town. The only ones I'm hearing from are questioning if it really is. As a member of the planning board, I want to represent our entire town. It's not really just my opinion. So if this is something that, and you're presenting this not just as a zoning change, you're presenting this as building a Dunkin' Donut.
No, we're being as transparent as possible.
Yes, you are.
We're not presenting a Dunkin' Donuts this evening, but we're trying to let you know is that the franchisee bought it for that purpose, and the reason for the zone changes are for that purpose, because we want everyone to know, and we want to be as transparent through this process as we can. As far as Dunkin' Donuts going out of business, I think we're okay.
No, I don't think that's not what I said.
My wife
the
alone
marketing
will
is
keep them in
saturated.
business.
That's not the point at all. The point is that there's trends, and the market is very saturated with coffee shops, up and down, all the way around,
Yep,
So.
and yet they stay open.
And yet America runs on Dunkin', is that the point? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I'm still wondering if this is the place for something that is like a brand, like
I don't know.
But that's just the question I'm asking.
Would it be helpful for the planning board to hear from the franchisee so they can explain why this is a good location and what their commitment is to the community?
Think of other locations out there.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why not.
Yeah. Manny, would you be willing to say a couple things?
Good evening. Manny Sardinia, franchisee, with my father and my brother Paul. And where we are right now, we rent the property. So we don't own where we rent. And the reason...
In the Paisanos Plaza,
yes,
that's where you are now.
Yes. So we rent the property. And as you mentioned, rent goes up, things change. We have no control of that. The reason why we wanted to buy something that we own is to have control of our future, our destination. So this way, someone cannot decide in 10 years from now when lease is up, says, hey, guess what, rent just double. And either we close because we can afford it, or we pay and just pay to stay open. So that's the reason, that's the main reason why we wanted to go and we own, and we have done in Northampton, Haydenville, bought properties and own the real estate. It's to control our future. That's the biggest reason why we want to do that.
And you didn't want to look at any other locations that are already commercially zoned in Southampton?
That one came with, to tell you the truth, I was coming from Northampton, down Palmer Road, and I have done this many, many times. That particular day, I saw the sign, I was like, it's been there forever. It was like for 2 years, which for sale, it says, we'll make a call. But to find out it was zoned residential. And we look into it, and it says, okay. Then we looked at Paisanos was right next door to, and that's the reason why we said, it's not right next. So I was not even aware of the whole master plan after, we came across it. They had a master plan, which I respect. But it said, but we continued forward because we already had an agreement with the seller. And because it was right next to a business, it says maybe there is a way that we could, because I don't see anybody build just a one-family home on those lots. which is 2 lots, it would be a 1-family home each. So, and what they were asking at the time for the lots, it makes no sense. It's route 10, so it's a busy road, and that was the reason this is, because it's next to a commercial use, maybe we could switch, change over to be able to put a business there. That was, as transparent as we've been, and Rob has been. That is the whole purpose of it.
Speak about the Haydenville store in the process a little bit.
So Haydenville was the same thing. We had a lot of pushback at the time. People thought we were just going to put a box like, we have some of them, because depending on the corner that we're in, you could put that. It's just a box with, pink and orange and, whatever colors we have at the time. I don't know if any of you here have been to Haydenville.
I went and looked specifically, because when you preliminarily came to the planning board.
So, and if you're not familiar, please do. And then what we did at the time is we worked with the town and the town with us, and we said we don't want to disturb. We want it to look like it's always been here. So, and I think it did. It's one of my favorite stores. And if we do something here, if we decide to go, the town decides to go for it, we're willing to work with the town. This is not, I'm going to put a box in DD and that's the end of the story. We want to be good neighbors. We want to be part of the community and be here for many years to come.
Was Haydenville already zoned commercially when you built that?
It was a bank at the time.
Yes, so it was already, where you didn't need a zone change.
We did it because of the drive-through.
You needed a
because of
zoning change?
the use of the property.
Okay.
Because it was a bank before. And the drive-through, the way they had it laid out, we had to change the whole thing over. So.
And specific requirements to not only go to the planning board, but through the ZBA and
yes.
Permit. There's quite a bit of permitting involved, and there was, as eloquent as everybody spoke this evening, there's a lot of people in Williamsburg that got up and spoke, and we're very concerned. And it's interesting, a lot of them are customers of Manny's now, and the stories I've been hearing, they're pretty happy. And
does Haydenville have a lot of coffee shops?
I'm sorry?
Or is that they have a couple of coffee shops?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Okay.
Now, there's no one's questioning the design in Haydenville or what will be if it comes to that here. The main concern here is not the features of the building, it's the traffic flow and the area that it's located in. It has nothing to do with the building. That's down the road when it comes to site plan and things the ZBA will have to deal with. The critical feeling here, from what I'm listening to and some people here on the board, is the traffic and the area it's located and the historical nature. There's other facets to it.
So the traffic, the car's already there. So as Rob mentioned, if this was 15, 20 years ago, maybe longer than that, before that Dunkin' opened, if we had just one store in 20 miles, yes, it would create traffic, because we did have some stores many years ago when we opened. People from all over, from other towns will come to that particular location. The market has been so saturated that there's not room to open more stores. There's room to maybe reposition the stores that we have, relocate them to a better place, which will make easier to get in, to get out, and easier traffic in the parking lot. You mentioned about the drive-through. The drive-through is reversed on that particular location in Southampton. With a few cars, is almost into the road. With this particular location, we can, as Rob says, people can stack. They don't have to be right on the street. So even for traffic flow inside the location, will be much easier than it is in that particular store. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, do you have something else?
I just want to reaffirm. I agree with what you've said here. It could be the Taj Mahal on that corner. That's not the issue here. The issue is where it is, what kind of business it is. The safety issue look, I live right there. I know what goes on there. I see the traffic that's there. I have an engineering background. I have a business background. I find it difficult to believe that you have not already done a traffic study there, because you would not want to put your business there if it was a low-traffic area. It's a high-traffic area, and that's why you want to be there. And I don't blame you for that, because you're in business to make some money. If it means that somebody gets killed there or injured there, then we will all be sorry about that. I am not in favor of this at all, and again, I urge you to turn it down.
Can I just ask a question?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. I just have a question,
I think I just heard that it didn't matter what the building looked like.
You have to speak to the mic, please.
We're not going to go there about the building looks. We're not into the looks of the building right now, I don't believe it.
We need to know what we need to focus on to give the information to the planning board. So
I'm listening to the historical preservation, the traffic, and again, I think the traffic is the main concern there too.
So I think
you got to focus on some sort of a study and data for us to.
Okay, so the three items are the historic, I think we've addressed. We were certainly, obviously it would be a new building, but we would make it as period of a feel as they want for the area, so that's one. The use itself, it sounded like people don't have a problem with coffee, but they are concerned about this area. They're concerned about the cemetery next door. I guess what we're trying to establish is if we're going to have takeaways from this meeting, what exactly are those takeaways? If there's still problems with just general development there, then a traffic study doesn't make sense for these gentlemen to pursue. If you think that extending the zoning district is in general keeping with normal progress with the town, the fact that we're extending an existing zoning district, the fact that we're on a very high traffic count roadway within the town. We're not going off into the hinterlands to try to do this. We're doing it right next to arguably a very successful restaurant over the years with Opa Opa, until recently anyway. With that, we think that we're in keeping with general good planning practice. The traffic aspect of it we would be happy to look at, and we anticipate doing that if we get a zone change. But certainly at this point, we need an understanding of where the planning board is. If it's just traffic, then yes, absolutely. But if there are other issues related to this that you have major issues with, we'd like to know that if possible. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Francine Delisio. I live at 271 College Highway. It's my understanding that the state is already going to do a traffic study on Route 10, and I'm not sure what that is going to entail, but is it possible that they can provide some information from their traffic study? Maybe Mr. Gibson knows when that's going to happen and what that will entail, the traffic study of Route 10 that the state is scheduled to do?
I'm not aware of any that is coming up.
Yeah,
Not soon?
Oh, excuse me. I believe we were doing a traffic study on the speed limit purely, not traffic.
That's it.
Just a speed limit assessment, I think, is what we're looking for.
Okay, so that's what the state is going to get involved in?
Yeah, it was the speed limit going through by Cumbies. It's 40, and we weren't sure if that was too fast, so.
Oh, okay. So I thought it was going to be more than that. Thank you.
Sorry. Diana Fetterman, 3 Birchwood Drive. The franchisee spoke about wanting to control their future with their business. They didn't have that control with the current store. But that's what we want to do as well. With our town, we're hoping to control our future. It is our town. I agree with Rini that it's presumptuous for someone to come in, buy land, with the assumption they'll be able to change the zoning, put pressure on us to change that zoning. And I don't agree that any kind of Dunkin' Donuts is going to look historical in a historical district. It's like Disney World is not, really a castle. You can make it look like anything, but it's still a Dunkin' Donuts. It's still inappropriate in that area. So, Maybe you could convince Williamsburg, but I don't think we're convinced here in Southampton. And I'd also like to ask, I think Mr. Kozub said that the planning board had the authority to deny this. If you could speak to that. What's the situation with that?
Well, we could. I'm not quite sure that, and I can't speak for anybody, that we wouldn't want the voters to have their say on this, to stop the process right here and not have it go forward. To me, I'm not quite sure I agree with that.
Okay.
But
Well, they certainly have the authority. I believe we have the responsibility too.
The mic, I think.
let this gentleman speak first.
My name is Chet Saltis. I live at 4 Pomeroy Meadow Extension, which doesn't seem to be a part of this discussion. I also own the property that was owned by the Glucks. So I've been here a few years and I've seen restaurants come and go. I've lived in the town since 1973. What people don't understand is my abut. I own the property. Apparently, for Mr. Gluck to build the red house at 4 Pomeroy, he had to include a parcel that goes all the way behind, I'll talk as OPA's property, all the way to, which was King Oak. And that is mine, and there's a line that goes behind 6 Pomeroy Extension, which used to be owned by the Yorks. And she was the daughter of the Crosses. And I have 3 adopted daughters. 2 of them are at Hampshire. The bus used to stop on Pomeroy Meadow Extension. It now stops right in front of PK's. My daughters have to be at the top of the street at 6:45. I go out in the street and I watch my 2 daughters get on the bus, and the bus goes by and there's 10 or 15 cars behind it. It goes up the road about a half a mile, stops again, and it creates, you know, the traffic problem that wasn't there. I also saw the road reconstructed to shorten the width of the road, which makes it difficult for people to get in and out of all the streets there, especially with the 40-mile-an-hour speed sign. I say to my wife, every time I go up by Shelton's, the hill there is 35 miles an hour. You get to the top of the hill, and there's another sign that reminds you it's 35 miles an hour going into town. Then you get by the library, and there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign, and that's because of the safety complex. But soon as they go by the fire station and down the hill, there's that 40-mile-an-hour sign. And you know that the trucks are getting up to 45, 50 miles an hour to get up to that hill, and there's not much room to the curve. And as people have stated, there's an increased truck traffic there, and I worry that the light, that light does nothing. Yeah, it gets people to stop on Pomeroy Meadow on the 10, but I always laugh because there was the accident where the individual drove right across Route 10 and into the tree, which is still there across Route 10. And all of a sudden, this light is up. Yeah, people stop, but right now, coming off of Pomeroy Meadow, it's more like a California stop. Hit your brakes and go. And the traffic problem is there. I've seen living there, I've seen the restaurants come and go. And you know, I've put up with it. I had good relations with it. I was kind of disappointed that JP's closed. I thought it was going to be a good business there. The property is for sale. I don't know why somebody doesn't buy it if they're going to do something like this and put it there. But I think if you're going to build something on those 2 open lots, that you're going to have to do something with the traffic problem. And that's all I've got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken?
I just wanted to clarify about the responsibility of the planning board in regards to the Zoning Act. The Zoning Act requires that if there is not 21 days between this public meeting, this public hearing, and your town meeting, then the planning board would have to provide a recommendation either to approve or deny. Without it, this would be a warrant item. And so the planning board doesn't have to act on anything. If a town meeting is scheduled with at least 21 days between now and when the town meeting is. But if the planning board chooses to, they can provide a recommendation to approve or deny. But it would still be on the town warrant.
It's a recommendation. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
So one way or the other, it'll go, as long as the timing is such.
Correct.
That, and the applicants choose to put it forth, that could go as a warrant on the town meeting.
Correct.
Ed, point of information, Ed Gibson, any idea when the next town meeting might be scheduled? Ballpark?
Ed Gibson, Town Administrator. Just best guess, probably the January, February timeframe.
Late January?
Anywhere in January or February, depending on what's going on the warrant. Because if something goes on again that we have to have less than 90 days to the annual town meeting, then we'll push it out into the end of the February, beginning of March. If we don't, probably late January, beginning of February.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Paul, I have a quick question for Ken. Okay, just for I understand this, if the planning board, regardless of what they vote on tonight, if it's beyond 21 days, you say it goes on the warrant. Who puts it on the warrant? Is that something that you approach the select board, or is it a petition from the citizens? Who does that?
It's not quite clear. So what the act says is no vote to adopt any such proposed bylaw or amendment, of which this zoning map amendment is one of those, thereto shall be taken until a report with recommendations by a planning board has been submitted to the town meeting or city council, or 21 days after said hearing has elapsed without submission of such report. After such notice, hearing and report, or after 21 days shall have elapsed after such hearing without submission of such report, a city council or town meeting may adopt, reject or amend, and adopt any such proposed bylaw.
What that sounds like to me, I could be wrong, is if if the planning board does not render a decision, then it would go on to the town meeting. Is that correct?
It's longer than 21 days.
Yeah, if it's longer than 21.
Right. We have 21 days. If we do not render a decision in 21 days, then it automatically goes on town meeting warrant. Is that what you're saying?
No. You would make a recommendation that you approved of the, it's a recommendation by the planning board that they either, I'm not going to say advocate, but find that the zoning bylaw change is consistent with town policy, or they don't. It's up to the town meeting to determine whether that change is going to occur, and a 2/3 a majority vote.
Okay.
April West, Strong Road. I'm a member of the Board of Assessors, so I did a little homework to see whether residential village and the taxes raised from 2 single-family homes that could be built on those lots now, as they are currently zoned, would be any different than having a commercial business. So 124 College Highway, the law office building, currently pays $6,100 a year this fiscal year, or fiscal year 2019. Cumberland Farms pays $6,250. Some of the newer, larger homes that have been built, which I would expect would have to be built for the price of those lots, pay anywhere from $5,500 to $77,000 to $9,000 a year on College Highway. So the tax benefit of a commercial building is not any different than 2 single-family homes. And a zoning change is a really big deal. Thank you.
I think a lot of that, what's been said tonight, is Rainy Grove and Cheryl Lane, has to do with the historical nature of it and whether it's a safe location for the business. I just want to say that there's been a lot of efforts in town lately to preserve open space, which has been very consistent with the master plan around wildlife corridors and protection of our water supply. But I just want to be clear that Southampton is not against development in any way. I mean, there's lots of properties right now for sale on Route 10 that are zoned commercial. And so I just think there's a lot of opportunity. The select board's been looking into limited sewer on a particular stretch and community light district and things like that that are intended to incentivize businesses along the proper corridor. So I just wanted to make that point. And also the Westfield, the Four Corners Dunkin' Donuts that's over by County Road and Route 202 there is a destination Dunkin' Donuts, and I think that it's very popular from what I understand. So I think there are options, I would think.
Jim, you want to give me some direction on which way you think we ought to, do you think we need more information on that traffic study, or do you feel we have enough information to close the public hearing, or should we continue it for any further information?
Well, I have roughly 12 residents from the town that have spoke against it and 0 for it. I would like to know, is there anybody in this room that is for it?
That wishes to speak.
For it is, I mean, we heard 11 or 12 different people speak against it. Is there anybody in this room that is for it? I'd like to hear from them.
So that was my question a while ago, Jim, and I thank you for repeating it, because I was going to ask the same thing. This group tonight may not be fully representative of every resident in town, and we do know that we want to see more commercial development in our town. I think I asked a question of the franchisees, or you, Rob, a little earlier, as to why another one of the commercially zoned for sale properties couldn't have been considered. And I got the sense from you, sir, that you drove down Pomeroy Meadow one day and you saw this open space that had been for sale for a while, and you thought that could be a possibility. You hadn't become familiar with the master plan at that point in time, and I don't know if you even knew whether it was zoned commercially or residentially when you first saw it.
I did not.
You did not. So you saw this as, wow, an opportunity perhaps because you're a businessman. And what we're doing is our best to let you know about all the other factors here. If this goes to town meeting, I know they're going to want a traffic study because of the people that spoke to me, traffic was probably the biggest issue. The historical aspect of it, and nothing to do with the design of the building, just the fact that that kind of a business right there in the historical district is probably the other big thing. We had an open hearing for another bylaw change last year. That was the marijuana, the adult use marijuana bylaw, and we got like 4 people. And this one we got, so many more people. So this is very important. There's probably people that aren't even here tonight that really are waiting to see and possibly watching this on the TV.
I just want to mention one thing. Because there was a lady.
Please come up and talk. Yeah.
Just want to mention one thing. There was a lady that made a comment about, us controlling our future, and they have the right to control the town, and says, how can we decide to buy something without, knowing all of these facts? The first option is a Dunkin' Donuts. It's a commercial use. The second option, we're gonna develop something there. So that's the plan. So, and, we didn't buy it, and we're not trying to be arrogant. You come here and says, no, I want to put a Dunkin' Donuts there, or I bought it and I really want to, have a commercial use. And I looked into the master plan. There's a big deficiency in town of low,
Affordable housing is the...
affordable housing in town. So there is options that we have. We start thinking about it.
That's good.
So, I mean, we're not going to leave it as a field. That's for sure. One way or another, because we could build a home, or we can build, 2 or 3 family homes, on it. So, I mean, we do have some options. I mean, that's what the first option, the first goal was to put to be for commercial use.
So to summarize what you're saying, if this zoning change doesn't happen, you already own the land anyway, you will develop it consistent with the current zoning, which is residential village.
That's correct. So we're going to have, that's to be transparent.
Janet Kane.
I mean, I'm not being...
No, excuse me, this isn't a debate, thank you.
Janet Kane, Glendale Road, Housing Authority, please give us some affordable housing in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You heard it here first.
I have a question. Just a question. I'm still a little fuzzy on what your authority is. I have been told that you can deny this. You, as a commission, can deny this tonight, and it does not have to go to town meeting. Is that your understanding?
The way the Zoning Act reads is they can provide a recommendation to deny it, but the town meeting is the final arbiter of that change.
Administrator?
I'll clarify it with legal.
Because my information came from town administrator. She said he'd clarify it.
So it's our understanding, we've been through a couple...
Why don't you stand up, Rob?
Yeah. So it's our understanding, we've been through this at least 50 times. You're a recommending body. So you'll have a positive or negative recommendation or no recommendation, but it will still get on the warrant. I mean, I think that's, it's a your non-binding recommendation. You're a recommending body only in this particular case. But definitely check it with legal.
If I'm not going to get any more response, I'm going to ask that we close the public hearing then, because I don't see a need then to continue it, because if we don't make the 21 days, which we could, although we have one of our members here that won't be present at the next meeting, and we need this quorum.
Next week, I will.
We have a special meeting that was a working session scheduled for next Wednesday, but I didn't have anything else on the agenda, and I'm not quite sure. Do you think we need any more information, Jim, then? Any need to continue it?
I don't think so.
I'm going to just speak to what Bob Koza keeps bringing up, the question of whether or not we want to either agree with the application, deny, or opine that we don't agree with the application, or say nothing. And I'm throwing this around. I didn't expect to have to think it in that way tonight. I think we should, as a planning board, give the town residents the right to hear this. And this is a small group. Granted, there's nobody that's spoken in favor of this that's a town resident. But I really think we should allow the town meeting opportunity for anyone else that might want to speak. That's where I feel right now. I don't know if anybody wants to.
From what I'm gathering here tonight, I think the town's going to have that right either way.
Regardless.
So basically, we're going to give a recommendation on what we feel, and then the town meeting will get the ultimate decision.
Or no recommendation.
Yeah, or we can do no recommendation, either one.
Move to close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any other information or questions before we close the public hearing? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Now I'd like a motion to either make a recommendation that we take no action, or we take action denying it, or rejecting it, or approving the process going forward.
Well, I'll give you my 2 cents. I came to the meeting with an open mind. I wanted to see what the townspeople had to say. I love Dunkin' Donuts, but we're not talking about a particular business. We're talking about a zoning change, so anything can go there. So we have to keep that in mind. We heard from a lot of residents, Bob, Judith, Rini, Janet, Bob, April, Chris, Bob, Mike, Dan, Francine, Diane, and Bob. But all these residents have a lot of concerns. To me, the biggest concern I heard tonight was the historical district. Second concern, I think, is the traffic. 2 valid concerns. The residents speaking tonight against it, I haven't heard anybody for it. That's sort of gives me an idea. I mean, I'm representing the people, and that's what their decision is. And I would recommend, the way I feel right now, a negative, but I don't know. It's going to go to the townspeople regardless, so that's sort of my thinking at this point.
Are you making a motion?
Well, do we make a motion to...
Well, I want to hear from everybody. I'm the only one that spoke
Do we
so
make a
far.
motion to reject it, or to just not take a stance?
Well, I'd like to hear your thoughts first, I guess.
Cindy?
Yeah. These are good people here. I can just tell these are really, they want to do the right thing by our town. You've been to 50 meetings in other towns. I do think this is a special spot. I don't think it's just a place along the Route 10 corridor. I'm going to also recommend that we not approve a zoning change. I'm really encouraged to know that as long as you own it, you can develop it in a residential way, and maybe with affordable housing, which is a big need in our town, hopefully in a very nice way, in a very attractive way. Sorry? Victorian box. You can talk to Bob Kozub and Sue Kozub. They'll give you some design ideas. So I think that I'm going to listen to the people that came out tonight, because I know there was a lot of advertising about this. It was on the Southampton News email that I get. It was, somebody told me it was all over Facebook. It certainly was in the public notice. And I think the town knew about this, and the people that came out are the ones that really had a strong opinion. So I agree with you, Jim. I'm going to suggest that we recommend against the zoning change.
I, too, have listened quite intently and was going back and forth in my mind. I struggle sometimes with the lack of commercial space in town and the possibility of one taken off the market coming up off of the tax rolls. So we kind of balance that sometimes. And even people have mentioned to me that, boy, there's some empty storefronts in town. Well, there might be empty storefronts, but the property owners still have to pay taxes on that property, whether the business's doors are open or not. So sometimes, you can't have it both ways when it comes to trying to reduce taxes and create more commercial space, but I do believe there's better spots for this high traffic business to be located. I'm leery of that corner. I respect the historical nature of the Bob's home and the cemetery, but there's also businesses close by as well that are within a stone's throw. So it's not like there's no businesses around this area, so I struggled with that, but I think the applicant, assuming that buying that property, it would be easy to get a zone change, was kind of unfortunate, because it just doesn't happen sometimes. And you probably didn't know the pulse of the community prior to buying it, but what also swayed me was when you spoke just a few minutes back about the other possibilities for development. So something's going to happen there either way, and I think the alternative outside of this commercial growth is probably going to have less impact than that Dunkin' Donuts, be just my guess. So I'm also going to recommend that we not favor this zone change. So given that, I'll ask for a motion that we looked unfavorably on this application to change the zone. Do you have a motion?
Yeah, I move that the planning board go on record as saying we are not in favor of the zone change.
And it will go to town warrant under that auspice.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and missed. Second, any other further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
We'd just like to thank you for your thoughtful consideration. That was a tough decision.
Yeah, thank you for your time and effort. Thank you, everybody, for coming out and voicing your opinions. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess here until the room clears so we can continue on.
Thank you.
Signs that the state put in on the streets are big. Pomeroy Meadows Extension is like this. We don't exist.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Cindy is on the agenda here to give us a report
And ask some questions.
and ask some questions regarding the master plan.
Okay, so I already handed this out to the other two fellows. The Master Plan Implementation Committee is going to go before the Select Board in the next couple of weeks, and that's because we've been able to whittle down the goals and the strategies and come up with the recommendations. And I'm a little anxious because, as you guys well know, the Planning Board is all over the particular goals and strategies as having at least a part responsibility for all of them. And I don't know how much of this has actually been done. Now, I just handed one to Paul down here, and go ahead and tell me what you said, Paul.
It's part of the master plan. There was a series of action items that have been identified and associated with different departments in town and whose responsibility it is.
Right.
And we had that section handed off to PVPC as part of the revisions that we were making to the zoning bylaws that Larry Smith has been handling since for what, almost 2 years now?
Okay.
So this is something that I don't know verbatim what the action items are that we handed off, but that was something that was already identified in the master plan that was summarized and we handed it off to PVPC.
Okay, so I asked Larry at a previous meeting not too long ago if he had read the master plan, if he had integrated the things that were listed as goals into the new proposed bylaws. So, but I couldn't find them. I couldn't find them in my copy of the proposed. I was trying very hard to read the proposed new bylaws that were coming through. So just, if they're done, they're done. Did we amend the existing cluster bylaw to encourage the use for the proposed open space residential development bylaw, which was drafted 2006 by PVPC for Smart Growth Technical Assistance Grant? Did we do that? That's number one.
That, we started it, but it was dropped because of lack of infrastructure along Route 10 from Easthampton to the Midtown area.
So is this something that could be, I mean, if the select board identifies this as one of the strategies they want to take up, then it's going to come back to the planning board, so we'll have to do it again, or we'll have to finish it.
Yeah, but the reason it was stopped is that, again, there was no infrastructure. It stopped dead in its tracks because of no sewer.
Oh, okay, so it's the sewer issue. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So has the planning board, number 2, identified a suitable property for the development of affordable housing? Is that something?
No.
Okay. Have we encouraged infrastructure improvements, specifically in our actions, such as sidewalk and traffic improvements through special permit process for commercial? Is that in the draft updated bylaws, number 3?
These are conditions that we look for on a case-to-case basis, that if there's a proponent that's looking to develop something in town and there are concerns with certain improvement needs, then those are certainly raised and discussed case by case.
Okay.
I'd go back, can you go back to number 2 for a second? Identifying the, suitable property for development of affordable housing. We developed the exclusionary bylaw that would allow it throughout the town, trying to promote affordable housing. So all residential areas,
Yep.
we identified, we tried to promote it with the bylaw, and that hasn't worked.
There was another strategy, it's probably not even on this page, that says having a bylaw for exclusionary housing, and we know that that's been done. But the question is, has the planning board sort of pinpointed properties?
No.
No. Okay, that's fine. And then number 4, do we have zoning regulations that allow for greater development densities where infrastructure is available or is planned? Well, we don't have any sewer system and a public wastewater system, but has that specifically been done by the planning board? Do we have?
Nope.
And then I know we're working on the table of use and permit regarding, okay, so then that's underway, right? Number 5. Number 6, do we have we, the planning board, decided on a mixed-use overlay district to encourage mixed use, mixed residential commercial uses in appropriate locations?
Once again, it's...
Right, that's what we tried. That was the sewer that we had a problem with.
It's relative to the number 1 there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Number 7, pretty much the same thing, adopting standards for mixed-use developments to allow different uses for one building, such as using retail on the first floor, residential on the second floor.
Yeah, that was the overlay district we were trying to do.
Yep.
Okay, tried overlay, okay. Number 8, do we enforce the protection status and regulations for officially designated scenic roads? I don't think that's been done in our town.
There's scenic roads that have been designated, but we haven't had any protection status.
No, we haven't. So that we haven't particularly done that.
No.
Okay.
We're trying to protect the improving of the roads or the type of houses. Can you define that?
You're supposed to identify them as scenic roads.
But it says
with signs.
enforce the
And
protection
enforce the
status.
protection.
What are they looking for us to do there?
I don't really know. A sign for one thing, and then if there's we haven't done it, so I can find out the specifics of what they're looking for.
I'm just curious what would be
Yeah.
required to accomplish that.
Okay, number 9, adopt zoning regulations that could help protect open space, key scenic views and vistas, as well as the rural character. Our zoning regulations, really, it's just, I guess tonight was one of them, to some extent. We protected the zone that wouldn't put a commercial property in there.
Well, it's just a recommendation.
Yeah, it was a
at this point.
recommendation, yeah. Do we have new bylaws or proposed bylaws that would protect open space, key scenic views and vistas, and enhance our rural character? We don't really.
No, but you might bring that and highlight that for Larry for next week.
Okay, I will do that. Number 10 and 11 I have bolded here. Have we done this low-impact development standards for stormwater management? Or do we have a river protection overlay district? I don't think we've done either of those things, have we? Not 10 and 11?
I don't recall.
Isn't that all pretty much controlled by conservation? No?
These all fell under planning board, every single thing on here, including others.
Well,
Could have
the stormwater would, but I'm about the rivers.
Yeah, the river protection, isn't that conservation?
Well, no, it has to do with, we would develop, we, the planning board, would contribute to adopting a district because it would be part of river protection.
So we would extend this beyond the 200 feet that they have right now for river, it's 200 right now for riverfront.
Yeah.
So are you saying that we would go beyond the 200 feet and limit building there, or within the 200 feet?
I think it just means that we considered if it should be extended. Has this ever come up to be
Okay.
discussed?
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. That would probably need input from the Concom, I think.
These come.
Can we, I think some of these, we might want to have a discussion with Larry.
Yeah,
Some of
he's
this
telling me
This is
that.
very,
All right,
this is premature, I think.
okay, yeah. Paul is saying in my ear that I should bring these up with Larry. So 12 is develop a prioritized list of key open space parcels for acquisition based on available developable vacant lands, key natural resources, critical habitat, da, 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 da. The planning board hasn't done any of that, I don't think.
Isn't that what you would consider that ad hoc open space committee
Yeah,
might
and that-
undertake that?
Absolutely, but then we're also, Paul and I are on the open space and recreation plan, and if you look in that, the original one has in it that should have been done, and I asked Ed if it's ever been done in town. I don't think anybody's ever pinpointed any of these properties, which has been kind of an issue because people are coming up with properties and they want to donate, and there's never been a particular list. So I don't think this has ever been done, number 12. 13, develop a plan to construct a comprehensive sidewalk system that connects residential, commercial, agriculture. Has the planning board ever come up with a plan?
No.
No.
Okay. Have we ever done this complete streets element to, in local roadways, which projects to encourage a
this is what you were
multimodal
pushing a
transportation
while ago.
system?
Paul can talk on this one.
Well, I don't think it went anywhere, right?
No, it didn't go anywhere, but he brought it up and.
So the complete street system is a very good program that the state has that offers assistance in different levels of basically improving infrastructure to be suitable for pedestrians, bicycles, and basically in those two categories, as well as updating ADA requirements for accessibility. In terms of this program, there are 3 different levels. One is the tier 1, which is basically the town votes to be a complete streets compliant community. Then the second tier is basically identifying a prioritization plan that that looks to improve hotspots in the community to basically do a reconstruction of. And this prioritization list then gets reviewed by DOT, and then there's ultimately some funding that would come under the third tier, which would be, I think at this level, I think it's like $300,000 to $400,000 that's available for communities up to that number.
I didn't hear the number.
Huh?
How much?
300,000 to 400,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. However, that's only for construction. But the complete streets component is something that goes actually a long way beyond just making these recommendations. This is something that we would have to also implement into our subdivision regulations, in my opinion, because it would promote sidewalks on both sides and not really have a fund per se that would be paid in lieu of a sidewalk as we.
So we would never waive that rule.
Well, we would have to consider that as something that we wouldn't waive. And the other thing is we would have to reconsider our roadway widths, right? You know, as part of the complete streets component, there's a bicycle component that typically looks to put like a 5-foot bike lane, right? As part of that type of infrastructure. So now you're changing your requirements for a.
Did you bring all this up once before, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I brought this up to the board before and individuals, and the problem is it's something that, you know, has to be approved by the select board.
Yeah, well, all of this would have to be approved by the select board.
Well, this one has to be a specific vote that would be accepted by the state as a tier 1, and then it would have to go through a process to ultimately get the funding.
Okay.
So let me give you another bit of advice. This is a significant undertaking that is usually received with a lot of negativity from town officials because it's considered invasive by the fact that you're establishing state standards that are not in tune with the town's character. So this is a kind of a, you know, this is a program that's been around for at least 5 years right now, I think, and only half of the communities in the state have elected to go through this process. So this tells you the
Well, I will.
Interest.
I'll bring that back to the Master Plan Implementation Committee and let them know. That's really helpful. If we have more questions, we can ask you, but.
Maybe you can get a visit from Paul.
Yeah.
I would, you know, the one thing, it's got to go beyond the master plan. It's got to go to the select board.
Yeah, all of this will.
Yeah.
These are, what you're looking at is verbatim out of the master plan strategy
Right.
and goal section, except these are the ones that are going to be presented to the select board with a planning board listed.
Right, but this complete streets component is a different animal
Okay.
than the rest of these, because this has a commitment to the state that you're making.
All right, thanks on that. That's good to know.
Just, you know.
Okay, and then 15, 16, 17, I bolded. I'm thinking we've already got those in our proposed bylaw changes. Update existing cluster zoning regulations to make it more user-friendly. Specifically eliminate minimum tract size requirements and consider allowing cluster developments by right, or not? Do we have that in our proposed changes?
What number are you on?
Number 15. I'll ask Larry on that one.
Allowing them by right, I don't think is in the books right now.
Okay. And then the 16, insert adopted regulations for agricultural preservation districts into the zoning bylaw and revise regulations to clarify its intent and make consistent with regulations in other areas of the zoning bylaw. I think that, you know what that looks like to me? You know that bylaw that kind of got lost there for several years? That's kind of what this looks like, similar. I'll ask Larry that one too. And,
Didn't he say to forget that or throw it out? Or
no, he didn't say throw it out.
No.
He said that, you know, my understanding, it would possibly all be integrated into the new bylaws. And
Yeah, it would need to be a separate one.
but, you know, we have, when that goes before town
I
meeting.
know it's a conflict, right? Some of these are conflicting each other, though. I mean,
Like what? Which ones?
well, I mean, just now you know, we have all these concepts here about adopting low-impact development standards, right?
Yeah.
Which in my opinion would conflict with the rural residential zoning district lot sizes. You know, revising them to a bigger size. I mean, to me, that's like, well, which one is it? Do you want bigger lots or do you want lower impact? Which I would think would require smaller lots to make that happen and lower footprint. So it's like, what is it that you want?
Okay. Same with 17 then, right?
Yeah.
Same thing? That's a conflict.
And 18 is
Is that
absolutely.
Hey, the sign bylaw, is that general, Jim? That's a general bylaw? That's not anything we do, signage, correct?
Say that again, I'm sorry?
Signage is a bylaw for the town, but yeah.
General, not zoning.
Yeah, we're going through all that now.
The
We
general,
started.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's one where, if you look at it, everybody's in violation. I mean, it's white light only and all that.
Yeah, okay, so I'll just put that down.
Yeah, 18 is, yeah, absolutely, we should do that.
So, and then at the very bottom, the current Southampton Open Space and Recreation Plan, at the very end, they have, again, more goals and strategies. Same one, letter A is the same as above. Prioritize the list of open space parcels for acquisition. And then I didn't list out all the criteria, but it's in there. So I know we haven't done that yet. Maintain current environmental inventory and develop a management plan for conservation areas. I know it sounds like the Conservation Commission, but the Planning Board is listed as partly responsible for that. Same, C is the same thing. We haven't done the low-impact development. Same as above, river protection overlay. I'm just telling you, these are also in the open space and recreation plan. So pretty much the same as above. Okay.
You've highlighted the ones so you can run by Larry, right?
Yeah, I did. Well, I have, yes, I did. So, the Open Space Ad Hoc Committee, we're hoping that the Select Board will make that a permanent committee, not just an ad hoc committee, because we've heard about other land donations that are coming up, people talking about wanting to do land conservation. They're not, in all cases, interested in the town buying it, and some of the tracts are really, really large, and one of them is considered undevelopable. It's up off an old road called Edwards Road up. It's actually.
Yeah, West Park.
Yeah, and it's 120 acres, and so they're talking to Kestrel. You've heard about the Hendrick property. It's not a large parcel. It's on the
Pomeroy?
It's on the corner of Cold Spring and Rattle Hill.
Right, okay, I'm sorry.
And they, I think, are going to go on the Select Board agenda as well, just to donate, cover all the costs.
I just saw that on their agenda. It's coming
Yeah,
up
it's
next
all the
week.
costs. It's not going to be any acquisition by the town, but they want the town to hold the CR, so that's part of it. So I'm just kind of giving you an update of what's happening, and also there's an effort to try to form a Friends Committee that could become a 501c3 committee for fundraising and also encouraging volunteers, because we really have a big need for that in the town. We've got all this land, and Conservation Commission is not able to keep up with it at this point, the maintenance of it. We're hoping that there's actually a meeting on the 14th of this month at the library for anybody that wants to attend that, to become a friend of open space.
Got to offer them wine and cheese to get them there.
I said cookies. I said cookies.
How about Dunkin's?
Okay. And then Paul, you're on the updated Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. We've got a public visioning already scheduled for, was that 19th of December? Was that the date?
It's a Wednesday night, so we need to can take that in consideration
That's
for our
right.
meeting.
It's the 18th, sorry, 18th of December. It's, the process for this updating of this Open Space and Recreation Plan includes a questionnaire and then a public meeting, a visioning.
It's the public vision meeting, which it's open to the public, which obviously that's what it says, but it's the second Wednesday of the month.
Yep.
So it conflicts with our regularly scheduled program.
The third Wednesday, right?
It's the third Wednesday. It's the
I'm sorry, it's the
second
third Wednesday.
yeah.
That's what I meant.
It's exactly 1 week before Christmas. I don't know if we can hopefully not have a lot of agenda that night and just have one meeting that
Just
night.
gonna have eggnog, right?
Well,
And Jim's cookies.
Isn't that a drinking night? It was last year, wasn't it?
What's that?
You all went out and, there were cookies, but then there's,
Always cookies.
I feel like you've been neglecting the cookies.
No, every year. I've never.
No, there's one year I felt like there wasn't, anyhow.
Is that it, Cindy?
that's,
10 years of cookies.
that's
man.
all I have to say. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I just opened up here a minute ago an invoice from the Gazette for Gill Farm Legal Ad, which I have the check for. The guy came in to give it to me, $366.80. Just need a motion to approve.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, I'm going to ask to have these minutes approved. They're very brief. They were the last meeting, October 16th. There was only 3 people here. There was only me, Paul, and Jim. And it was very brief. It was recorded. So I'm just going to read it quickly. We had 3 ANRs. Charles Fisher, west side of Fomer Road. And the 3 ANRs from Bradley Miller on Glendale Road that we approved. We signed the Gill Farm subdivision Mylars. We had a building permit of 306 Fomer Road, which we approved tonight. That was previously tabled at that meeting. We had an informal discussion with Sean Dale about specifications for an accessory apartment at 89 Pleasant Street. We introduced Ken Comia, the new planning board consultant from PVPC, and we assigned a new address to 151 East Street. And then we also approved the following minutes for 2019, which we were very lax on. We approved 123, 417, 51, 515, 619, 710, and 94. Then we adjourned at 8:15. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Thank you. And that's all I have, folks. We're going to meet next week.
Oh, really?
What?
Nothing, I'm sorry.
We have a working session next week with Larry, with bylaws.
Right up here. Spelt right up here.
Is it okay if do you have an updated email for him? Can I email my questions in
Yeah.
advance?
I think is it L. Smith at Yahoo? Let me look. Motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
9:32.